Open Air tomorrow will be looking at the problems parents face looking after a new baby. Claire Rayner will be giving advice, and if you'd like to talk to her, please phone 061 814 0424. The lines are open until 10 tonight.
Help! This Saturday sees the return of the likeliest lads in Liverpool, and Tex has a new job.
I'm going to miss all this. Turning up here every morning, seeing your happy, smiling faces, sharpening our intellects on the grindstone of political debate.
Dava enjoys other diversions.
What's the matter with you, Dav, eh?
That bit of stuff behind the bar. I think she fancies me.
Is there some problem?
Well, I was James Kilbraith, sir.
Sir James Gilbraith. Well, it's a pleasure. Travelling incognito, is it, James?
But Sir James gets his comeuppance from the widow Riley.
There's a wee wide, warm welcome waiting for the man who puts his slippers alongside my coal scuttle.
Tex, Lenny and Dava in a new series of Help this Saturday at 5:45 on BBC1.
Well now, is there help on hand for Bobby and JR?
Pick up a new edition of Radio Times and see what's coming up in the week ahead. This weekend there's international golf as the US Masters prepares to tee off. And the most exciting horse race of the year, the Grand National. New series featured in Radio Times include Sophia and Constance, a major new drama which tells the story of the contrasting lives of two sisters at the turn of the century. Black and White, screened throughout next week, goes in search of the realities of racial discrimination. Secret Services looks at jobs few of us would want to do. Horizon next week pieces together the clues surrounding the mystery of Easter Island. Who carved these giant statues and why? Radio Times, all your programming needs for the week, plus the chance to win an exciting competition. Pick up a copy. It's on sale now.
Ah, but not before your points of view. Here from Anne Robinson.
Hello, good evening. And have you just been watching them on Southport? I don't know. JR's at it with Kimberly, Sue Ellen's at it with Nicholas, Miss Ellie thinks Clayton's at it with Laurel, and April wants to be
Dear
at it
points of view, Dallas used to be about oil, now it's all about love. Please bring back oil. Kirsty Tullett, age 6, Lossiemouth.
And there's that other lot.
Dear Anne, I know something you don't. I know what's going to happen in Dynasty. It's obvious. Fallon and 6 of her UFO cronies and a manic computer named Aurak are going to get taken off in a spaceship, and after a few weeks they can have their own bubble series called, you've guessed it, Blake 7.
You lot never give up, do you?
No. It'd mean at last millions of viewers would once again be able to see their all-time favourite programme. Yours faithfully, or sincerely, can never remember which, Neil Gilchrist, aged 19, shoe size 7.5.
Who comes from Elian, who also asks...
P.S. Please can you make sure the woman with the high-pitched voice doesn't read this, as she makes our dog howl.
Which brings us to a song for Europe. What a to-do.
What is the point of trying to vote for the best British entry when you can't even get a line in to register your choice?
Mrs. Jan Marshall of Bury St Edmunds complains.
On several occasions, my kids have entered into the spirit of things only to be told lines are busy, please try later. It's a waste of time and effort unless there are thousands of lines all working at once to get the real public view. Yours sincerely in haste and very cross. And by the way, we think number 7 should have won.
Now, for those who didn't even enter into the spirit of things, let me explain that there were 8 songs and 8 different phone numbers, so you rang the one specifically allocated to the song you were voting for. But, as Andrea Whitehurst of Slough discovered...
I decided High Windows, number 2, was worthy of my vote. I tried from 7:45 till after 9 p.m, but failed to get through as it was constantly engaged. They say this song got 41,000 votes, and the winning song got 91,000 votes.
And Andrea declares...
Unless the song had more lines on this number, it's an impossibility. And my conclusion is that the whole thing was fixed.
Well, we'll come to that in a minute, Andrea. But first, let Mr. E.K. Ruston of Doncaster show off his sums.
337,557 votes were cast in all by my calculations, which must have earned British Telecom £16,877.85.
And what's more, as Leslie Brownless of Nottingley has worked out...
The winning song got 93,271 votes in just 80 minutes. That's 19 calls every second.
Right. Let me try and explain the voting system and those telephone lines. There were about 500 lines in all, but none of these were allocated to any specific number, so whichever number you rang, you had the same chance of a line. But with so many calls not getting through, how could the voting be fair, you ask? Well, it's rather like sampling. So, if 50% of calls are made for, say, Act 1, then 50% of calls that actually get through will be registered for Act 1. And in 3 snap polls taken during the evening, it was shown that this theory was holding up. And if you're not satisfied with all of that, you can phone Open Air, ask to be a guest on Did You See? Wine at Anna Ford during Network.
My dear Anne, I am becoming more and more angered, not to mention bored, by the increasing number of television programmes about television programmes.
Should I take this personally, Denise Tilden of Brighton?
My criticism does not naturally apply to points of view, Anne. Thank you for remaining so charmingly tongue-in-cheek and short.
Oh, good. You just want to have a go at the other ones, Denise. Well, feel free.
As I see it, there are currently 4 television stations, all providing a constant supply of drama, quiz shows, movies new and old, first-class documentaries, and extensive news coverage, all for 16p a day. I can't see why, if there's nothing on during a particular evening, people can't just switch off, go for a walk, bath a budgie, read a book, anything but stop whinging. Be grateful for the miracle of television. I don't think it was meant to be taken seriously. Yours in frustration, Denise Tilden, age 38, an age that can remember when there was no television.
And who might have missed Brian Laurie making much...
Welcome to Oh No, Not Another One.
A bit of Brian Laurie. But here's someone who can't see any of our television programmes.
Mark Howard, a homesick expatriate, Melbourne, Victoria, Australia.
Ah, Mark, how did you miss being interviewed by Alan Wicker? Anyway, you can talk to us instead.
I just thought you'd like to know. It looks as though the Aussies are getting a little confused over our soap operas. Take a look at the entry for EastEnders on Channel 2 in the enclosed Melbourne Age newspaper.
6:30 p.m. EastEnders. British drama serial set in Liverpool.
But a British drama set in Seaford, New Haven, has brought in a large and appreciative postbag. The 2 of us sensitively explored the relationship of Matthew, who knows and accepts that he's gay, and Philip, who isn't sure.
This programme reached out and touched me.
Paula Brown indeed was so impressed, she suggests.
I would ask teachers to show this beautiful play to their teenage class for 2 reasons. Teenagers today are well aware of sex and their sexuality, but lack the objective information. If they can read twisted stories of sexuality in newspapers, they're certainly smart enough to analyse and discuss this play. Philip and Matthew were lucky enough to find each other to identify with, but I know from what my son went through that some teenagers grow up unable to talk to anyone about their sexuality. In hindsight, I wish I could have reached out and helped him more.
Tim Stimpson of Bognor Regis also felt the play had a genuine message.
As I'm 21, I can understand all too well the difficulties experienced when coming to terms with our sexuality. Although I am not homosexual, I did go through a very traumatic time of doubt, as did many of my friends. I felt the play expressed this issue with a high degree of sensitivity and openness, but I just dread to think of all those people who'll write in to complain.
Well, interestingly, not to say astonishingly, we didn't get any letters of complaint, only lots more letters like those 2. Mind you, lots of complaints like this one from Mrs. K, Mystery of Stanmore.
If only you could see me. I am fuming with fire and smoke coming out of my ears. How dare the BBC meddle with our beloved play school? I don't think you realise how much pleasure the programme gives to hundreds of thousands of children. It's a very big mistake putting an axe to it.
This letter is also a complaint, but it starts ever so nicely.
Dear Anne, what lovely hair you have.
How nice of you
But
to
in the
say.
very short time you have, can you explain why the planners of Super Night of Rock and Roll did not plan with a bit of simple logic?
Such as Mr. Britt of Crawley.
I'm 45, you see, and still remember the swinging 60s. I was 15 with a full head of red hair and really loved the music of the day. But the average age of those swingers is now 50 plus. So why screen the programme from 11:55 till 1:30 a.m.? This age group has to support their eyes with matches to stay awake till that time of night. Anyway, have a nice day, Rusty.
Actually, there was some logic, Mr. B, because if you put a one-off programme on mid-evening and shift all the regular programmes, you cannot move in the points of view office for letters.
I switched on to see a good late-night movie, but instead there was boring rock and roll.
Who in their right mind replaced the best movie slot on television with that hideous 60s music?
I wish to complain...
You get my drift, Mr. B, and time for just a couple more moans.
As a horse lover and racing fan, I looked forward with great interest to Friday's Arena, the English thoroughbred.
Mrs. Lorraine Wilmot of Axbridge, was it not to your liking?
The horse shots, particularly those set against the beautiful strains of Scheherazade, were quite delightful, but the programme was spoiled for me by the dreadful female voice which imposed itself on the proceedings every few minutes. As well as sounding more at home on a market stall than at Newmarket, this voice obviously belonged to someone who had absolutely no knowledge or interest in the glorious, noble and courageous equines that were the subject of the film.
And Mrs. Wilmot has not finished.
Was it really necessary to hear all about Henry Cecil's vegetable garden? I'm sure a few more minutes of the mare and foal at the end of the film would have been greatly appreciated.
Now, the next letter is from Hayes. You know where Hayes is, don't you? You don't? Well, you'll be finding out from Mr. Frank Woodruff.
Dear Miss Robinson, would it be possible for you to have a word with whoever is responsible for news bulletins?
I should address them yourself, Frank. They're sitting there waiting for my ugly mug to disappear so they can kick off. What is it they're doing to annoy you?
Recently, both Uxbridge and Northolt have been in the news for different reasons, and BBC newsreaders describe these places as west of London or outside London. They talk about Harefield Hospital in the same way. I would like to point out that Uxbridge, Northolt and Hillingdon are in the magnificent county of Middlesex and should be so described.
Thank you, Frank. They're probably rewriting tonight's 9 o'clock script as I speak. But before the news, and after I say goodbye, a quick glimpse of those little elephants in Wildlife on One, which I know you will love. See you next week.
BBC 2 in a moment, a madcap medical manoeuvre with MASH, followed at 9:25 by the last sortie into Peter Davison's own very peculiar practice. And at 9:30 we learn what life is like.